Hello, everyone, and welcome to Story Fellowship. We are going to continue our adventure with Magnus Chase, and I will hand it off to our amazing orator and reader for the evening, Dennis Jones. Take it away, Dennis.
Okay. I just logged onto the beach. This is the last page of the chapter because I know you guys want to recap. I just logged onto the beach and a wolf's howl split my eardrums. Now, sure, I'd been expecting a wolf ever since childhood. Wolves had terrified me, so I'd tried my best to gather my courage. But Fenris's howl was unlike anything I'd ever heard. A note of pure rage so deep it seemed to shake me apart, breaking my molecules into random amino amino acids and icy ginagagap run off. Safe in their boat, the two dwarves cackled with glee. I should have mentioned, Bajilar called to us. The ride back is a little more expensive. All your valuables, please. Gather them together in one of your bags. Toss them to me. Otherwise, we'll leave you here. Blitzen curve. You'll leave us here anyway. That's what they do. At the moment, heading inland to confront Fenris Wolf was very low on my wish list. At the top of my wish list was cry and plead for the treacherous dwarves to take me back to Boston. My voice quivered, but I tried to act more courageous than I felt. Get lost, I told the dwarves. We don't need you anymore. Fudgelar and Gagelar exchanged looks. Already their boat was drifting farther away. Didn't you hear the wolf? Fudgelar spoke more slowly, as if he'd estimated my intelligence. You're stuck on that island with Fenris. That's bad. That's a bad thing. Yeah, we know, I said. The wolf will eat you, Fajalar cried. Bound or not, he will eat you. At dawn, the island will disappear and take you with it. Oh wait, no, that was not the last. Well, that was a page. Thanks for the lift, I said. Pleasant trip back. Fajalar flung. Well, this is actually 2 pages of the last chapter. Fajalar flung up his hand. Idiot, shoot yourself. You'll collect we'll collect your valuables from your skeletal remains next year. Come on, Jaguar, back to the docks. We might have time to pick up another load of tourists. Jaguar wet revved the motor. The longship turned and disappeared into the darkness. I faced my friends. I got the feeling they wouldn't mind another rousing speech like, "We're a family of empty cups, and we will dominate." Well, I said after running from an army of dwarves, facing another, facing a monster squirrel, killing three giant sisters, and butchering a pair of talking goats. How bad can Fenris Wolf be? Very bad, Sam and Blitzen said in unison. Hearthstone made two OK signs, crossed them at the wrist, and flicked them apart. The sign for awful. Right. I pulled my sword from pendant form. The blade's glow made the heather look even paler and more ghostly. Jack, you ready? Dudes, said the sword. I was I was forged ready. Still I get the feeling we're walking into a trap here. Show of hands. I asked my friends, is anybody surprised by that? Nobody raised their hand. Okay, cool, said Jack. As long as you realize you'll probably all die in agony and start Ragnarok. I'm down. Let's do this. 62. The Small Bad Wolf. You hear that? I remember the first time I was Plymouth Rock. My reaction was, "That's it." Some with the Liberty Bell in Philadelphia, and in the Empire State Building in New York, up close and personal. They seem smaller than I'd imagined, not worth the hype. That's how I felt when I saw Fenris Wolf. I'd heard all these terrible stories about him. The gods were too scared to feed him. He could breathe the strongest chains, break the strongest chains. He'd eaten tires, tire, Tyrs, tires, hand. He was going to swallow the sun on Doomsday. He was going to devour Odin in a single bite. I expected a wolf bigger than King Kong with flamethrower breath, death ray eyes, and laser nostrils. What I got instead was a wolf the size of a wolf. He stood at the top of the ledge, looking down into the valley where Fenris sat calmly on his haunches, and he was larger than than an average Labrador retriever, but definitely no bigger than me. His legs were long and muscular, built for running. His shaggy gray coat swirled with tufts of black. Nobody should Nobody would have called him cute. Called him cute. Not with those gleaming white fangs on the bones littering the ground around his paws. But he was a handsome animal. I've been hoping to find the wolf lying on his side, hog-tied and fastened to the ground with nails, staples, duct tape, and crazy glue. Instead, the golden rope Glenipner restrained him more like the leg irons used to transport criminals. The glimmering cord was tied around all four of his ankle joints, allowing enough slack for the wolf to shuffle around. Part of the rope had apparently once been tied around the wolf's snout like a muzzle. The section now fell across his chest in a loose loop. Fell across his chest in a loose loop. The rope didn't even appear to be anchored to the ground. I wasn't sure what was keeping Fenris from leaving the island unless there was one of those doggy no invisible fences around the perimeter. All in all, if I were the god of Tyre, getting my hand bit off so the other gods wouldn't have time to bind the wolf, I would have been pretty torqued off at the shoddy work. Didn't the Aesir have one decent god of knots? I glanced at my friends. Where's the real Fenris? That has to be a decoy, right? No. Sam's knuckles whitened on the handle of her axe. That's him. I can sense it. The wolf turned toward the sound of our voices. His eyes shone with a similar blue light with scent of cyclophone mallet down the back of his rib cage. Well, his voice was deep and rich. His black lips curled in a very human sneer. Who do we have here? Have the gods sent me a snack? Okay, wait a minute. Oh yeah, he's talking. Sent me a snack? I revised my impression of the wolf. Maybe his size was ordinary. Maybe he didn't sneeze laser beams, but his eyes were colder and more intelligent than any predator I'd ever encountered. Animal or human, his snout quivered as if he could smell the fear on my breath, and his voice, flowed over me like molasses, dangerously smooth and sweet. I remembered my first feast in Valhalla, when the Thanes didn't want Sam to speak in her defense because they feared the silver tongue of Loki's children. Now I understood. The last thing I wanted to do was approach the wolf, yet his tone said, "Come on down. We're all friends here." The entire caldera was maybe 100 yards across the ground, which meant the wolf was much closer than I would have liked. The ground sloped. The ground sloped gently, but the heather was slick under my feet. I was terrified I might slip and slide right between the wolf's paws. I'm Magnus Chase. My voice was not as smooth as molasses. I forced myself to meet Fenris's gaze. "We have an appointment." The wolf bared his teeth. "We do indeed, son of Frey. Vanir spawn have such an interesting scent. Normally, I only get to devour the children of Thor or Odin, or my old friend Tyr. Sorry to disappoint." "Oh, not at all." The wolf paced the rope gleaming between his feet, barely slowing his gait. "I'm quite pleased. I've been waiting a long time for this." On my left, Hearthstone banged his white oak staff against the rocks. The heather plants glowed brighter, a fine silvery mist rising from them like a lawn sprinkler system. With his free hand, Hearth signed to me, "Flowers make the prison. Stay within." Fenris Wolf chuckled. "The elf is wise. Not powerful enough. Not nearly powerful enough to face me. But he is right about the heather. I can't stand this stuff. Funny, though. How many brave mortals choose to leave its safety and come within my reach? They want to test their skill against me, or perhaps they simply want to make sure I am still bound." The wolf leered at Blitzen. "Your father was one of those. A noble dwarf was the best of intentions. He approached me. He died. His bones are around here somewhere." Blitzen let loose a gruntle scream. Sam and I had to restrain him to keep him from charging the wolf with his new harpoon. Quite, quite sad, really," the wolf mused. "Belai was his name. He was, or was it? Yeah, Belai was his name. He was right, of course. This ridiculous rope has been loosening for ages at one time. I was completely unable to walk. After a few centuries, I managed to hobble. I still couldn't, I still can't cross the heather. The farther I move from the center of the island, the more the rope tightens, and the more pain I endure. But it's progress. The real breakthrough came. Oh, a little over 2 years ago when I finally managed to shake that cursed muzzle off my snout." Sam faltered. "2 years ago?" The wolf tilted his head. "That's right, little sister. Surely you knew." I began whispering in the dreams of Odin what a fine idea it would be to make you the daughter of Loki. A Valkyrie. What a fine way to turn a potential enemy into a valuable friend. No, Sam said. Odin would never listen to you. Would he not? The wolf snarled with pleasure. That's the wonderful thing about you so-called good folk. You hear what you want to believe. You think your cons- conscience is whispering to you when it is. Perhaps the wolf instead. Oh, you have done very well, little sister, bringing Magnus to me. I didn't bring him to you, Sam shouted. And I'm not your little sister. No, I smell the changeling blood in your veins. You could be powerful, you know. You powerful. You can make our father proud. Why do you fight it? The wolf's teeth were as sharp as ever, his leer just as vicious, but his voice filled with sympathy, disappointment, melancholy, you know. Melancholy,
Melancholy.
melancholy. His tone said I could help you. I am your brother. Sam took a step forward. I grabbed her arm. Fenris, I said, you sent those wolves the night my mother died. Of course. You wanted to kill me. Now why would I want that? His blue eyes were worse than mirrors. They seemed to reflect back at me all my failures, my cowardice, my weakness, my selflessness is running away. When my mother needed me most, you you were valuable to me.
You okay, buddy?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. Um, Magnet, Magnus, but you needed seasoning. Hardship is wonderful for cultivating power. And look, you have succeeded. The first child of Frey strong enough to find the sword of summer. You have brought me the means to escape these bonds at last. The sword spun beneath me.
Stop. Oh. Yeah. I can't hear nothing.
Sorry, Travis. Hey, welcome to the call.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's okay. We're just in the middle of the book. You go ahead, Dennis.
The horse plummeting with no rain. Where was I? Succeeded the first child of Frey strong enough to find the sword of summer. Oh wait, hold on. Was that where I left off? But you needed seasoning. Hardship is wonderful for cultivating power and look, you have succeeded the first child of Frey, strong enough to find the sword of summer. You have brought me the means to escape these bonds at last. The world spun beneath me. I felt like I was and Stan back on Stanley. The horse plummeting with no rein, no saddle, no control. All this time I'd assumed Fenris wanted me dead. That's why his wolves had attacked our apartment. But his real target had been my mother. He'd killed her to affect me. That idea was even worse than believing my mom had died to protect me. She died so this monster could forge me into his harbinger. Harbinger. A demigod capable of attaining this sort of summer. I was filled with so much rage I couldn't focus. I'm in I'm in my hand. The sword began to hum. I realized how long Jack had been silent. He pulled at my arm, tugging me forward. Jack, I muttered. Jack, what are you? The wolf laughed. You see, the sword of summer is destined to cut these bonds. You cannot stop it. The children of Frey have never been fighters, Magnus Chase. You can't hope to control the blade, much less fight me with it. Your usefulness is at an end. Seward will arrive soon. The blade will fly to his hands. Mistake, Jack murmured, tugging to escape my grip. Mistake to bring me here. Yes, the wolf purred. Yes, it was my fine blade. Yes, it was my fine blade. Seward thinks all of this was his idea. You understand he's an imperfect tool. Like most fire giants, he's a lot of hot air, more bluster than brains, but he will serve his purpose. He'll be very happy to take possession of you. Jack, you're my sword now, I said though I could barely hold on with both hands. Cut the cord, Jack hummed. Instantly cut the cord. Do it, Magnus Chase, said Fenris. Why wait for Stuart? Cut me loose of your own free will, and I will be grateful. Perhaps I would even spare you and your friend. Blitzen growled. Even better than the wolf from his pack. He pulled out the new string and skida and squatty. I was ready to bind the smut. Now I think I might just strangle him. I agree, Samara said. He dies. I wanted more than anything to join them. I wanted to charge the beast and run him through the sword of summer. Through run him through. The sword of summer was supposed to be the sharpest blade in the 9 worlds. Surely it could cut wolf hide. I think we would have done it. I think we would have done it, but Hearthstone wept. His staff in front of us, the runestone Pethro, flared with gold light. Look, the command was more a tremor than a sound. I turned and stared in an amazement at Hearthstone. The bones. He didn't use sign language. His he didn't speak his thought. His thought was simply there, clearing my mind like wind through fog. I looked again at those skeletons littering the ground. All of them had been heroes, the children of Odin, Thor, or Tyr, dwarves, humans, elves. They'd all been tricked, enraged, enchanted by Fenris. They'd all died. Hearthstone was the only one of us who couldn't hear the wolf's voice. He was the only one thinking clearly. Suddenly the sword was easier to control. It didn't stop fighting me, but I felt the balance shift slightly in my favor. I'm not freeing you, I told the wolf, and I don't need to fight you. We'll wait for Seward. We'll stop him. The wolf sniffed the air. Oh, too late for that. You don't need to fight me, poor mortal. I don't need to fight you either. I don't need to fight. Are others to do that for me. As I said, good folk are so easy to manipulate, so ready to do my work for me. Here are some now. Across the island, a voice yelled, stop. At the apo- at the opposite side of the ridge stood our old friend, Danilo, with a Valkyrie on either side of her. Standing out to her left and right were my old hallmates, TJ, half-born, Mallory, and X was Pat, and X, the half-troll, caught in the act of aiding the enemy. Ganilla said, "You signed your own death warrant." 63. I hate signing my own death warrant. Well, well, yeah, well, said the wolf. I haven't had this much company since my binding party. Ganilla gripped her spear. She didn't look at the wolf, as if ignoring him might make him go away. Thomas Jefferson Jr., she said, you and your hallmates take the prisoners, go around the edge, obviously, slow and careful. TJ didn't look happy about it, but he nodded. His army jacket was buttoned up tight with his bayonet gleamed in the moonlight. Mallory Keene gave me the stink eye. But that could have been her version of a happy greeting. The two of them went left, picking their way across the rim of the crater, while while the three Valkyries kept their spears pointed at Fenris. Ash lumbered to the right, followed by Halfborn, who was twirling his battle axes and whistling under his breath as if this was a pleasant stroll through a field of fallen enemies. Sam, I muttered, if we're taken, I know. No one will be here to stop Seward. I know. We can take them, Blitz said. They're not wearing armor, much less fashionable armor. No, I said, these are my shield, bro. They these are my shield, bro. My shield siblings. Let me try talking to them. First sign, crazy you. The beauty of the beauty of sign language. He could have meant, are you crazy or I'm crazy just like you? I decided to imper- inter- interpret it as a show of support. Fenris Wolf sat on his haunches and tried to scratch his ear, which wasn't possible with the cord binding his legs. He sniffed the air and grinned at me. Interesting company you keep, Magnus Chase. Someone is hiding, but I can smell him. Which one is he? Ah, perhaps I will get a feast today, after all. I glanced at Sam. She looked just as mystified as I felt. Sorry, Fuzzball, I said. No idea what you're talking about. Fenris laughed. We shall see. I wonder if he will dare to show his true face. Chase, Ganilla plucked a hammer from her bandolier. Do not speak with the wolf again, or I will cave in your skull. Ganilla, I said, great to see you again too. Seward is on his way. Right now. We don't have time for this. Oh, have you made common cause with the Fire Lord who killed you? Or perhaps that was part of the plan from the beginning to get you into Valhalla. Sam sighed. For a child of Thor, you think too much. And you, daughter of Loki, listen too little. Jefferson, hurry it up. My hallmate got to either side of us. Mallory made a tish tish sound. You led us on quite a chase. Clever, I said. How long have you been waiting to use that line? Mallory smirked. Next to her X whip wiped beads of green sweat from his forehead. Wolf's rope is loose. This is not good. From across the valley, Ganilla yelled, "No fraternizing. I want them in chains." TJ dangled 4 sets of handcuffs from his finger. Here's the thing, Magnus. Ganilla made it clear that that if we don't prove our loyalty to Valhalla by apprehending you, we will spend the next 100 years in the boiler room shoveling coal. So consider yourself under arrest. Blah blah blah. Halfborn grinned. But the other thing is, we're Vikings. We're pretty bad at following orders, so consider yourself free again. TJ let the handcuffs slip from his fingers. Oops. My spirits lifted. He means, you idiot. Mallory said that we're here to help. I love you guys. What do you need to do? What do you need us to do? TJ asked. Sam nodded to Blitzen. Our dwarf has a rope to rebind the wolf if we can. Enough, Ganilla shouted on either side. Her Valkyrie lieutenants readied their spears. I will take you all back in chains if I must. Fenris howled with pleasure. That would be delightful to watch. Unfortunately, Valkyrie, you are too slow. My other friends have arrived, and they won't be taking any prisoners. Ed's gazed toward the south, his neck muscles rippling like freshly poured cement. There, at the same moment, Hearthstone pointed with his staff. The whole length of white oak suddenly burned with gold fire. On the ridge to the right, between the Valkyries and us, a dozen fire giants marched into view. Each stood about 10 feet tall. They wore leather scale armor, carried swords the size of plow blades, and had various axes and knives hanging from their belts. Their complexions were an assortment of volcanic colors: ash, lava, pumice, obsidian. The fields of heather may have been noxious to the wolf, but the stuff didn't seem to bother the fire giants. Whatever they stepped, the plants burned and smoked. In the middle of their line stood Satan's fashion consultant himself, the Fire Lord, wearing a trim-cut 3-piece suit of chain mail, a tie, and a dress shirt that appeared to be woven from flame, elegantly accessorized with a burning scimitar as a scimitar, SCIMIDAR. Scimitar in his hand. He looked pretty good, despite the fact that his nose was still cut off. The fact that least made me happy. Blitzen clenched his teeth. That's my design. He stole my design. Magnus Chase Stewart's voice boomed. I see you have brought my new sword. Excellent. Jack almost leaped out of my hands. I must have looked ridiculous trying to keep him under control, like a fireman rustling a high-pressure hose. My master, Jack said. He shall be my master. Stuart laughed. Surrender the sword and I will kill you so quickly. He sneered at Ganilla and her two lieutenants as Odin's wrenches, I make no promises. Fenris Wolf rose and stretched. Lord Stuart, as much as I love posturing and threats, posturing and threats, can we move things along? Moonlight is awaiting. TJ, I said, yeah. You asked me how how you could help. My friends and I need to rebind Fenris Wolf. Can you keep those fire giants busy? TJ smiled. I charged uphill against 1,700 Confederates. I think I can handle a dozen fire giants. He called across the valley. Captain Ganilla, are you with us? Because I'd rather not fight another civil war. Ganilla scanned the army of fire giants. Her expression soured, as if she found them even more repugnant than she found me. She raised her spear. Death to Stuart, death to the enemies of Asgard, she said. She and her lieutenants charged at the giant. I guess we're in business, TJ said. Fix bayonets. 64. Whose idea was it to make the wolf unkillable? Valhalla's daily combat training finally made sense to me. After the terror and chaos of war in the hotel courtyard, I was more prepared to face Fenris Wolf and the fire giants, even if they didn't have AK-47s or chest painted with "Come at me, boy. Come at me, bro." I was still having trouble controlling the sword, though the only thing that Jack helped Jack now seemed divided between wanting to fly to Stuart's hand or flying toward the wolf. Luckily for me, I needed to approach the wolf. Sam knocked a giant's thrown axe out of the air. Rebinding Fenris, any idea how we're doing that? Yes, I said, maybe, not really. A fire giant charged in our direction. Blitzen was so angry between the wolf gloating about his dad's death and Stuart stealing his fashion idea that he howled like crazy. Alice in Chinatown, Crazy Alice in Chinatown, and rammed his harpoon right through the giant's gut. The fire giant stumbled off, belching flames and taking the harpoon with him. Hearthstone pointed to the wolf. Idea, he signed. Follow me. I thought we needed to stay in the heather, I recalled. Hearthstone raised his staff. Across the ground at his feet, a rune spread like a shadow. So there is a like a Y. I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's a Y, and it's like a stick figure like saying Y almost.
Mm.
And comes the John
Stick
here.
Why?
Oh yeah.
Oh crap.
That's why we stay in opposite rooms. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. Heather bloomed around it, sprouting new tendrils. Oh, geez, Sam marveled. The rune of shielding. I've never seen it used. I felt as if I were seeing Hearthstone for the first time. He didn't stumble, he didn't faint, he strode confidently forward, the flowers expanding before him like an untrolling carpet. Not only was Hearth immune to the wolf's voice, his rune magic was literally redrawing the boundaries of Fenris's prison. We inched into the valley, following Hearthstone. On the right side of the island, my Harjar friends clashed with Seward's forces. Half-born Gunderson buried his axe in the breastplate of a giant axe, picked up another fire breather, and tossed him off the side of the ridge. Off the ridge, Mallory and TJ fought back, jabbing and slashing and dodging blasts of flame. Ganilla and her two Valkyries lieutenants were fighting Stuart himself between the shining white spears and the flaming swords. Their combat was almost too bright to watch. My friends fought valiantly, but they were outnumbered 2-1. The fire giants didn't want to die. Even the one Blitzen had harpooned was still staggering around, trying to blowtorch the Enharjar with his bad breath. We have to hurry, I said. Open to suggestions, kid, Blitzen said. Fenris paced expectantly. He didn't seem concerned to see us shuffling toward him on a carpet or either. Collectively armed with an axe, a glowing white staff, an uncooperative sword, and a ball of string. By all means, come down, he said. Bring that blade closer. Blitzen huffed. I'll tie him up. Hearth can guard me. Hearth can guard me. Magnus and Sam, you two keep him from biting off my head. For a few minutes. Terrible idea, Sam said. Got a better one? Blitz asked. I do. Fenris lunged. He could have torn my throat out, but that wasn't his plan. His front paws passed on either side of my sword. Jack cheerfully cooperated, slicing the rope in half. Sam brought down her axe between the wolf's ears, but Fenris leaped out of the way. His back legs were still hobbled, but his front paws were free. The wolf's coat steamed from contact with the heather. Blisters swelled all over his legs. But he sounded too delighted to care. Oh, that's wonderful, he crowed. Just the back legs now. Please, then we can get Ragnarok underway. All the rage that had built inside me for 2 years boiled to the surface. Blitz, I said, do what you need to do. I'm going to knock this mutt's teeth out. I ran at the wolf, possibly my worst idea ever. Sam charged in next to me. Fenris might have been the size of a normal wolf, but even with his back legs hobbled, his speed and strength were impossible to match. As soon as I stepped from the edge of the heather, he became a blur of claws and teeth. I stumbled and fell, a line of deep cuts across my chest. Fenris would have torn me open if Sam's axe hadn't slammed him aside. The wolf smashed. The wolf snarled, "You can't hurt me. The gods couldn't hurt me. Don't you think they would have slit my throat if they could have? My destiny is fixed until Ragnarok. I am unkillable." Must be nice. I stumbled to my feet, but it won't keep me from trying. Unfortunately, Jack wasn't helping. Every time I tried to attack, the sword turned and swerved, doing his best to cut the rope around the wolf's back legs. My fight with the wolf was more like a game of keep away. Blitzen lunged forward. The end of the Enduscati tied in a noose. He tried to snare the wolf's hindquarters, but he might as well have been moving in slow motion. Fenris stepped aside, dodging another strike from Sam's axe. The wolf slashed Blitzen across the throat, and the dwarf fell face down. The string rolled away. "No!" I yelled. I moved toward Blitzen, but Hearthstone was faster. He slammed his staff across Fenris's skull. Golden fire blazed. The wolf clambered away, whining in pain. A rune mark now steamed on its forehead. A simple arrow seared into the gray fur. So it's an arrow that points upward. "Twas," the wolf snarled. "You dare attack me with the rune of Tyre." The wolf lunged at Hearthstone, but seemed to hit an invisible barrier. He stumbled and howled. Sam appeared next to me. Her axe was gone. Her left eye was swollen shut, and her hijab had been cut to shreds. "Hearth used the rune of sacrifice," she said, her voice quivering, "to save Blitz." "What does that mean?" I asked. Hearth collapsed to his knees, leaning against his staff. Still, he managed to put himself between the dwarf and the wolf. Wait a minute. What? To say Blitz. "What does that mean?" I asked. Hearth collapsed to his knees, leaning against his staff. Still, he managed to put himself between the dwarf and the wolf. "You sacrificed your strength to shield your friend." The
Wow.
wolf laughed. "Fine, enjoy your spell work. The dwarf is already dead. Your own rune magic has doomed you. You can watch while I deal with my other tasty prey." He bared his fangs across the field. The battle was not going well. One of Ganila's Valkyries sprawled lifeless on the rocks. The other one fell, her armor burning from Seward's sword. Ganila faced the Fire Lord alone, swinging her spear like a whip of light, but she couldn't last. Her clothes moldered, her shield was charred and cracked. The Enharjar were surrounded. Halfborn had lost one of his axes. He was covered with so many burns and gashes. I didn't understand how he could still be alive. But he just kept fighting, laughing at it as they charged the giant. Mallory was on one knee, cursing parried as she parried attacks from three giants at one knee. Oh wait, giants at once. TJ swung his rifle wildly. Even X looked tiny compared to the enemies now looming over him. To the enemies now looming over him. My head throbbed. I could feel my enhargy power at work, trying to close the cuts on my chest. But I knew Fenris could kill me faster than I could possibly heal. The wolf sniffed, no doubt, smelling my weakness. The wolf's weakness. Oh, well, he decided. He chuckled. A good try, Magnus, but the sons of Freyd never were fighters. All that's left for me to do now is devour my enemies. I love this part. I hate this part. 65. So 65 is I hate this part. I read 5 chapters. Do you guys want me or near 5 chapters?
How many pages is 65?
Oh wait. Hold on, now my hipple's not working. Oh, yes, it was.
Dennis? How
Yeah.
many pages is the next chapter?
How many pages is the next chapter?
Yeah, because we have till 7:30, so that's
just 3 pages, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages.
okay.
And
I
then
don't
the
know,
next
it's up to the group. What do you guys want? What do you guys think?
Yeah,
Yeah.
would say go ahead.
and then
This
these are a lot smaller chapters actually from the last part.
is pretty climactic though to leave it there. So let's see what happens next.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hate this part. The strangest things can save your life, like lions or bulletproof ascots. Fenris lunged at my face. I cleverly escaped my falling on my butt. A blurred shape launched itself at the wolf and knocked him aside. 2 animals tumbled across the bone yard in a whirl of fangs and claws. When they separated, I realized Fenris was facing a she lion with a swollen eye. Sam, I yelped. Get the rope. She kept her gaze on her enemy. I need to have a talk with my brother. The fact that she could speak in lion form freaked me out. Even more than, huh?
Oh man, this is awesome.
Shoot.
Even more than the fact that she
into
had a lion form. Her lips moved in a very human way. Her eyes were the same color. Her voice was still Sam's voice. Fenris's fur stood up on the back of his neck. So you accept your birthright as you are as you are about to die, little sister. I accept who I am, Sam said, but not the way you mean. I am Samara Alabax, Samara of the lion. She leaped at the wolf. They clawed it, kicked, and howled. I'd heard the term fur flying, but I'd never realized what a horrific thing it could be. The 2 beasts literally tried to tear each other apart. And one of those beasts was a friend of mine. My first instinct was to charge into battle, but that wouldn't work. Freya had told me that killing was the least of the sword's powers. The sons of Frey have never been fighters, the wolf had said. So what was I? Blitzen rolled over, groaning. Hearthstone frantically checked the dwarf's neck. The ascot glittered somehow. It was turned. It had turned from yellow silk to woven metal. Saving Blitzen's throat was in the process. It was honest to Frigg, bulletproof neckwear. I couldn't help grinning. Blitz was alive. He had played to his strength. He wasn't a fighter. Nothing was I. Neither was I. But there were other ways to win a battle. I snatched up the ball of string. It felt like woven snow, impossibly soft and cold. In my other hand, the sword became still. What are you doing? Jack asked. Figuring stuff out. Oh, cool. The blade quivered as if stretching after a nap. How's that going? Better. I stabbed the end of the blade into the ground. Jack, did you try to fly away? Stuart may get you someday, I said, but he doesn't understand your power. I do now. We're a team. I looped the string noose around Jack's hilt and pulled it tight. The blade seemed to fade around me. I stopped thinking about how to fight the wolf. He couldn't be killed. At least not now. Not by me. Instead, I focused on the warmth I felt whenever I healed someone, the power of growth and life, the power of Frey. The Norns had told me 9 days ago the sun must go east. This place was all about night, winter, and silver moonlight. I needed to be the summer sun. Fenris Wolf noticed the change in the air. He swiped at Sam and sent her tumbling across the lawn of bones. His snout was shredded with claw marks. The rune of Tyre glistened ugly and black on his forehead. What are you up to, Magnus? None of that. He lunged, but before he could reach me, he fell out of the air, twisting and howling in pain. Light surrounded me, the same golden aura as when I'd healed Sam in Hearthstone in Jotunheim. It wasn't hot like the fires of Muspelheim. It wasn't particularly bright, but it obviously pinned the wolf. He snarled and paced, squinting at me like I'd become a spotlight. Stop that, he howled. Are you trying to annoy me to death? Son, the lion struggled to her feet. Sam, the lion, struggled to her feet. She had a nasty cut on her flank. Her face looked like she'd rear-ended a tractor trailer. Magnus, what are you doing? Bringing the summer. The cuts on my chest mended. My strength returned.
My father was the god of light and warmth. Wolves were creatures of darkness. The power of Frey could constrain Fenris just as it constrained the extremes of fire and ice. Sticking up from the ground, Jack hummed with satisfaction. Summer? Yeah, I remember summer. I rolled I rolled out and Gotti until it trailed Jack like a kite string. I faced the wolf. An old dwarf once told me that the most powerful crafting materials are paradoxes. This rope is made of them, but I've got one more. The final paradox that will bind you. The sword of summer, a weapon that wasn't designed to be a weapon, a blade that is best used by letting go of it. I willed Jack to fly, trusting he would do the rest. He could have sliced the last of the wolf's bonds. He could have flown across the battlefield straight into Stuart's hands, but he didn't. He zipped under the wolf's belly, threading the cord Antidosky around his legs, faster than Fenris could react, binding him and toppling him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fenris's howl shook the island. No, I will not. The sword zipped around his snout. Jack tied off the rope. In an aerial parrot, then floated back to me, his blade glowing with pride. How'd I do, boss? Jack, I said, you are one awesome sword. Well, I know that, he said, but how about that rope? Work, huh? That's a perfect Stevedore's knot. Stevedore's knot, right there. And I don't even have hands. Sam stumbled toward us. You did it. You did it. Her lion form melted into regular old Sam. Badly injured. Her lion form injured. Face battered. Her side soaked with blood. Before she could fall, I dragged her.
Uh-oh.
Sorry. Jack, I said, you are one awesome sword. Well, I know that, he said, but how about that rope work, huh? That's a perfect Stevendore's knot right there. And I don't even have hands. Sam stumbled toward us. You did it. You, her lion. Oh my God. Wow. Sorry. I grabbed her and dragged her away from the wolf, even full bound. He thrashed and froth at the mouth. I didn't want to be any closer to him than I had to be. Hearthstone staggered after me, holding up Blitzen. The four of us fell together on a bed of heather. Alive, I said. I wasn't expecting that. Our moment of triumph lasted about, well, one moment. Then the sounds of battle became louder and clearer around us, as if a curtain had been ripped away. Hearthstone's shielding magic may have given us extra protection against the wolf, but it had also sealed us from off from the fight with the fire giant, and my Enharjar friends weren't doing well. To the Valkyrie, PJ shouted, "Hurry!" He stumbled across the ridge, bayoneting a fire giant and trying to reach Ganilla. All this time while he'd been dealing with a wolf, the Valkyrie captain had been holding off Seward. Now she was on the ground, her spear held weakly above her as Seward raised her scimitar. Mallory staggered ground weaponless, too far away and too bloody to help X. X was trying to dig his way out from beneath a pile of giant corpses. Halfborn Gunderson sat bloody and unmoving, his back propped against a rock. I processed this in a split second. Just as quickly, I realized Hearth, Blitz, Sam, and I wouldn't be there in time to make a difference. Nevertheless, I gripped my sword and rose. I staggered toward Ganilla. Our eyes met across the field. Her last expression, one I recognition of in anger. Make it count. The Fire Lord brought down his scimitar. 67 sacrifices.
Oh man,
Oh,
dude, I wanna keep going. I don't know, like how
There's
is it?
this is
there's
like a
one,
cliffhanger, John.
three,
Seriously.
four chat pages.
You guys want to keep going? We're like in the
Yeah.
middle of battle.
So
I'm like-
I tell you. So I can read probably the rest of the book.
But that'd be going for a while.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a little bit more.
Let's just do one more chapter if you guys are okay with it.
Yeah.
No.
Cool.
We was on what page we're on, cause yeah.
Yeah, Marie got on really late. Sorry, Marie. I would have said welcome to the meeting, but you got on at like 7:05 or 7:04.
So
start-
let's see here. We are reading. We read. I'll let you know where we read from. Okay.
Yeah, we started on chapter 61, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And what is this next chapter?
66
Okay.
sacrifices. Okay, let me turn on the light.
It's entitled Sacrifices. Ooh.
66 is sacrifices. You guys ready?
Let's do it. Battle with
I
the
don't know why it broke me so badly. I didn't even like Ganilla, but when I saw Seward standing over her lifeless body, his eyes smoldering in triumph, I wanted to fall down in the pile of bones and stay there until Ragnarok. Ganilla was dead. Her lieutenants were dead. I didn't even know their names, but they'd sacrificed their lives to buy me time. Halfborn was dead or dying. The other Enharjar were not much better off. Sam and Blitz and Hearth were in no shape to fight. And Stewart was still on his feet, as strong as ever, his burning sword ready. 3 of his fire giants were also still alive and armed. After all we'd been through, the Fire Lord killed me. Take my sword and cut the wolf free. Judging from the smile on his face, Seward expected to do just that. I am impressed, he admitted. The wolf told me you had potential. I didn't think even Fenris expected you to do this well. The wolf thrashed in his new magic bonds. A few feet from the Fire Lord, TJ crouched, his bayonet ready. He glanced at me, waiting for a sign. I knew he was ready to charge one last time, distract the giants, if it would help me. But I couldn't let another person die. Go now, I told Stuart. Go back to Muspelheim. The Fire Lord threw back his head and laughed. Brave to the end. I think not, Magnus Chase. I think you will burn. He thrust out his hand. A column of fire shot toward me. I stood my ground. I imagined being with my mom in the Blue Hills on the first day of spring. The sunlight warming my skin, gently thawing 3 months of cold and darkness out of my system. My mom turned to me, her smile luminous. This is when I am. This is where I am, Magnus. In this moment with you. A sense of serenity anchored me. I remembered my mom once telling me how the town houses in Back Bay, like our family ancestral home, had been built on landfill. Every so often, and engineers had to sink new pylons beneath the foundations to keep the buildings from collapsing. I felt like I'd had my pylons reinforced. I was solid. Stewart's flames rolled over me. They lost their intensity. They were nothing but ghostly flickers of warm orange, as harmless as butterflies. At my feet, the heather began to bloom, white flowers spreading across the landscape, reclaiming the trampled and burned areas where Stuart's warriors had walked, soaking up the blood, covering the corpses of the fallen giants. The battle is over, I announced. I consecrate this ground in the name of Frey. The words sent a shockwave in every direction. Swords, daggers, and axes flew from the fire giant's hands. TJ's rifle spun from his grasp. Even the weapons lying on the ground were expelled from the island, blasted into the darkness like shrapnel. The only one left holding a weapon was me. Without his flaming scimitar, Stuart didn't look so confident. Tricks and childish magic, he snarled. You cannot defeat me, Magnus Chase. That sword will be mine, not today. I threw the blade, it spiraled toward Stuart, passing over the giant's eye. Stuart grabbed for it and missed. What was that? The giant laughed. An attack? No, I said. That was your exit. Behind Stuart, Jack slashed the air, ripping the fabric between the worlds. A zigzag of fire burned on the ridge. My ears popped as if someone had shot out the window in an airplane's pressurized cabin. Stuart and the other fire giants were sucked screaming into the rift, which closed behind them. Bye, Jack called. Catch you later. Except for the outraged snarling of the wolf, the island was silent. I stumbled across the field. I fell to my knees in front of Ganilla. I could tell immediately that the Valkyrie captain was gone. Her blue eyes stared into the dark. Her bandolier was empty of hammers. Her white spear lay broken across her chest. My eyes stung. I'm sorry. For 500 years, she'd been in Valhalla, collecting the souls of the dead, preparing for the final battle. I remembered how she'd scolded me, even gazing upon Asgard. You have none, you have no sense of reverence. In death, her face seemed full of wonder and awe. I hope she was gazing upon Asgard the way she wanted it to be, filled with azure, all the lights burning in her father's mansion. Magnus called TJ. We have to go. He and Mallory were struggling to carry half-born Gunderson. X had managed to dig his way out from under the fire giant's corpse pile and was now carrying the two other fallen Valkyries. Fletch and Hearthstone stumbled along together. Sam closed behind. I picked up the body of the Valkyrie captain. She was not light, and my strength was fading again. We have to hurry, TJ spoke as gently as he could, but I heard the urgency in his tone. The ground was shifting under my feet. I realized my glowing aura had done more than blind the wolf. The sunlight had affected the texture of the island. The island was supposed to disappear at dawn. My magic has hastened the process, causing the ground to dissolve into spongy mist. Only seconds, Sam gasped. Go. The last thing I felt capable of was a burst of speed, but somehow carrying Ganilla, I followed TJ as he led the way to the shore. 67. One more for a friend.
I think we'll leave it there. Man,
Man,
that's insane, dude.
68 is a don't
That's-
be a yo bro.
awesome.
And
Don't
these
be
are
a
actually
what?
shorter. The last few chapters are shorter.
Yeah, I mean, we're really close to finishing the book. That was an awesome battle.
No,
I mean, I
Yeah.
can't believe he threw the sword Jack up and it just touched the air, and the giant's like, "That's all you got," and then Jack just slices a rift in the time-space continuum to suck him through like a portal. That's awesome.
that
Uh,
is awesome.
We went till 7:30.
Yeah, but it's 7:29, dude.
Yeah, I know.
So yeah, I think we're gonna leave it there, guys. But
Yeah.
this was awesome, and we're real close to finishing up this first book in the series, and we'll keep going
Can't
from
wait
there.
for the next book.
Yeah.